Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. We begin our video with a story about a stupid and careless neighbor. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Don't pay your cable bill? Bye-bye TV. I didn't do this, I merely suggested it. My friend had a secretly shared cable connection with the guy next door. A single, well-hidden cable was enough to share the signal and the bill. This worked fine until a new neighbor rented that place. He was really stupid and a complete a-hole. We'll call him AH, by the way. He used to come home drunk at night with his car radio at full volume, leave trash and cigarette butts on the sidewalk, etc. As expected, when he moved in, he agreed to split the cable, but never helped to pay the bill. When asked for the money, he said he had just enough for rent and food, became hostile, and my friend decided to avoid problems with him. Well, one night my friend and I were having a beer at his place when AH got home, as loud and a-holy as possible. We witnessed him and some guy take out a 50-ish inch TV, super expensive at the time, out of the car and take it inside. For some reason, the TV didn't come in its box. It came from a pawn shop or some shady place for sure. That was the time he told me about the overall situation. I remembered a story a cable guy told me once and joked about feeding electricity through his shared cable to fry his brand new flat screen, but it was a joke. Sometime later, late at night, I received a call from my friend. It was about 1 a.m. He told me AH decided it was karaoke night and invited over his a-hole-ish loud friends. Being completely disgusted, my friend did what I had suggested. He first connected a car battery to the cable, and nothing seemed to happen. Then he decided to use a 110-volt wall socket. Karaoke party was over after a few seconds. AH was already drunk and started yelling at some guy on the phone for selling him a crappy TV. Some more guys came and problems escalated. The cops came to the neighborhood and took AH and some other guys into custody. I was excited and scared at the same time. Luckily, AH left the neighborhood about 2 weeks later and never realized what actually had happened that night. I didn't do this, I merely suggested it. As a joke. He thought he could take advantage of you guys. He deserved it. And our second story. I don't know how to use this machine, okay? It was my first job out of high school. I was hired as a trainee in a large engine reconditioning company. It was one of those family-run businesses that started in the backyard and grew to the point where they might have been making millions, but they were likely spending just as much. All the family members worked there in all the top positions, so you were never going to move up the ladder. I was stationed at an old milling machine. No computer, no smart tech. You mounted a cylinder head in the bay, you manually dragged the milling head over, visually lowered it until it made contact, then raised it up 1/100 of a millimeter, turned the mill on, and manually wound the head across the part you will mill. I got pretty good at using this mill. The average heads milled per day was around 21, and one day I'd sometimes do 50. But luckily, the worker in the station next to me caught on, and when I was about to report my day's worth of work, he said, 21. I was still young and dumb, so I proudly said 50. He corrected me. 21. Tomorrow you pretend to work. Light bulb moment that I always remember to this day. I'm in my 40s now. So from then on, I'd work hard one day and have an easy day the next. One day the mill needed serious maintenance. The company was so tight that they didn't regularly maintain any of the machines. They waited until they needed repairs. I wrote down the issue I had and mentioned that this mill was not operational. At any random moment, the mill would jump and the head would drop about a millimeter. The diamond tips would gouge the cylinder head, and most of the tips would snap. Expensive. Instead of being told, thanks for reporting it, we'll get it fixed right away, they told me off for being abusive to the machine. That I didn't know how to use it correctly. Normally when something like this happened, and it happened a lot, they would demote you to the acid wash or the camshaft bearing resurfacer, the crappiest job in the company. But instead they sent me to the new laser-guided computerized mill, which was also out of order but had been waiting for the tech to come and resolve the issue. The guide probe that was used when you initially put a new part in there was malfunctioning. The machine would sense the part, and instead of stopping, resetting, and then sense the part again at a higher resolution, it would smash the probe into the part and break the tip, costing lots of money. I tried to tell the supervisor that the machine he was sending me to was out of order, but he shut me up before I even opened my mouth. He jumped on the old mill and made me stick around to show me how to do it properly. The mill couldn't have effed up at any better moment. About 30% into the job, the head dropped a few centimeters, not millimeters, smashed into the head. The head went flying off the otherwise pretty solid mounts, scary moment. Being an old mill, you could run this without the guard door shut, which the supervisor did. I went to say, please shut the door, but he shut me up again. Fine, I stood well away. Guess which direction the cylinder head went flying? Right at him, hit him in the chest, winded him, knocked him to the floor, and I immediately called an ambulance. He was rushed off to the hospital and returned to work with some broken ribs. It didn't end there, though. He blamed me for everything upon returning to work and said he hoped I continued working on the other mill. I was stationed at the acid wash by another supervisor, another family member, a big box with a cage. We dump parts into it and back out. Simple, menial, perfect. Nothing could really go wrong. I went to say the other mill was broken too, and I tried to remind him that the probes kept snapping. He wanted none of it. Once again, showing me how to use the fancy mill, he instructed me to lift the cylinder into the mill and mount it. He programmed the mill for that model head, closed the door, and pressed start. The probe came down and kept going, shattering into the head. He swore so hard he hurt his ribs. Do you want me to go back to the acid wash now until this is fixed? I got sent to the area where we removed head studs. Better than the wash. We used blowtorches. I guess he didn't want to be told what to do. I've never understood why repairs and downtime are cheaper than scheduled maintenance. And our last story. Lowball me on the value of my car? Okay. On November 17th, 2010, I was involved in a major vehicle accident. 18-year-old kid's fault. I was in the hospital for 6 days and was on disability home rest for 3 months for recovery. Back issues / fused spine. When I was coherent enough to deal with business, I started talks with his insurance company. From the very start, they lowballed me on price from just about everything. $600 value for a $3,500 car. Kelley Blue Book valued it at $3,690. And I had a brand new paint job on it from 3 months prior. Their value, $32. 4 brand new tires, not even 2 months old, valued $5 a tire. They browbeat me into thinking that this was how the process worked. Nearly convinced me to settle. This insurance company wanted to cut me a check for $700 and some change within 5 minutes of talking to me. Negotiations started horribly, and I couldn't get them to budge for nearly a week. I talked to my lawyer, and he couldn't help but give me great advice. I got additional advice from my own insurance agent on how to deal with them, and basically asked professionals on how to approach this. It turns out this insurance company the kid used was the shadiest last resort of the last resort kind. My lawyer, who dealt with the medical bills, not car issues, told me, edit, removed apparent personal information. With the record this kid had, he was paying close to $1,600 every 6 months. He was uninsurable by all standards, but it was his insurance company that was the worst of the worst. They were playing the waiting / scare tactic game with me. What they hadn't planned on was a guy with nothing but time on his hands, and my jimmies had definitely been rustled. I inquired on every single item in and on my car. I located receipts, got estimates on everything. I had bombarded them with faxes, paperwork. At every opportunity, I begged and pleaded with the companies I dealt with in estimates to overinflate the price of the cost. $700 repair for a leather jacket. $2,300 for a Dell i3 laptop, $160 for designer jeans, probably Kirkland's signature if I recall. The insurance company only budged a bit on the fair market value price, so they started playing a new game with me, not taking my calls and not responding to my emails. When my claims adjuster agent did call back, my phone would ring once, as in 5 seconds, and he would hang up just so it looks like they made an attempt to call. I would immediately return the call but would get, "Your claims adjuster just stepped out of the office," or "He's headed into a meeting," from the operator / receptionist. Nearly 3 weeks of these phone tag and email aversion games led me to create a detailed itinerary of my agent's whereabouts and excuses of why he couldn't take my calls. I then upped my game. I called his bosses, talked to other agents, and told my story to all of them. When that got me nowhere, I upped my game even more. I called every hour on the hour for 8 business days in a row. I was on a first-name basis with 4 of his coworkers, knew his supervisor's name and boss's name, and had all of their extensions and email addresses on speed dial. I was even CCing all of them on every email I sent, so my agent had zero excuse that he didn't get my calls. Shortly after, a settlement offer was sent via email, as he refused to talk to me at all over the phone, in the amount of $1,800 for my vehicle and $1,200 for my personal items. I wanted $3,500 and $1,750 and wasn't going to settle for less. He chose to make this personal and not do business, so I did the only logical thing. I made it business in the worst possible way. I called on a Friday afternoon and left a message on every coworker's phone as well as the supervisor's phone that because my agent refuses to negotiate properly nor return my calls, that I would now be calling all of them every hour on the hour as well as the supervisor and boss, leaving detailed messages to call me back and offer me what my vehicle and personal items were worth. I stated I would be starting this on Monday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. Needless to say, by Tuesday afternoon, I had a settlement offer of $3,200 for my vehicle and $1,730 for my personal effects. Dollar figures that were very fair and almost generous in the industry, but I replied back with the following. See, what bothers me is that I would have settled for less than this amount far earlier in the negotiations, but after all this time and effort, I will not settle for anything less than $3,530 for my vehicle and $1,810 for my personal effects. I'll start calling again tomorrow morning until these terms are met. Within 2 hours of leaving that message, I had a new email with a settlement offer of $3,530 for my vehicle and $1,810 for personal effects. I accepted, much to their delight. Damn, dude. I can't even imagine just how incredibly annoyed they must have been at the broker and how bad he looked in front of his boss as a result of what you did. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.